Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Welcome back to the channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Bruno Villas and today I'm going to tell you another story. If you're just arriving here now and you're not yet subscribed to the channel, I invite you to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss notifications, because that way, every time I publish a new video, YouTube will notify you and you can come watch it with me. I also want to take this opportunity to invite you to follow me on social media, because there I'm always interacting with you and also posting different content from what I share here on YouTube. But now let's get to what matters and move on to today's case. Today's case is quite shocking because it involves a child of only 4 years old. But it is necessary to talk about this subject because cases like these are a denunciation of the tragedy that can affect children around the world when negligent parents are accompanied by equally inefficient child protection systems. Often, those who should protect and preserve are incapable of doing any of that, and who ends up paying for the reprehensible behavior of the parents and also for the incompetence of public support. And protection systems are the innocent children, unfortunately. If you don't feel comfortable and it's a trigger for you, please check out the latest videos from this channel and do not watch this one. But for those of you who will stay with me until the end, today we are going to understand everything that happened to little Noah and why the child welfare system bears a significant part of the blame for the tragic end of the boy's life. On July 5th, 2019, the parents of Noah Cuatro, who was 4 years old at the time, called the emergency number, saying that their son had drowned in the pool, located in the apartment complex where the family lived. The emergency response was quick, and soon after, a team of police officers arrived, along with an investigator. As might be expected, little Noah did not appear to have been a victim of drowning. In fact, quite the opposite. He had signs of strangulation, rib fractures, some of which were new and others appeared to be quite old, which in themselves already indicated a history of abuse. Besides that, he had bruises on his chest, arms and legs, a large mark on his forehead, as well as signs of sexual abuse. The cause of death was considered to be asphyxiation. From there, a major investigation began, uncovering the horrors experienced by the boy and also the negligence of his parents and the incompetence of the child welfare system, which on several occasions could have saved the boy's life, but chose to turn a blind eye and feign ignorance about what was happening. A month later, in August 2019, the Los Angeles Child Protection Office issued an extensive report that absolved the Department of Children and Family Services of any responsibility for Noah's death. But, to the dismay of the Department of Children's Services, two investigative journalism teams delved deeply into this case and brought to light every detail involving Noah's case. The investigations were led by the Los Angeles Times, with the help of the investigative reporting program at UC Berkeley. They were quite bold and were not intimidated by anything. They went to court to gain access to documents that would reveal what really happened in this horrific case. Noah Cuatro was born in 2014 in Palmdale, California. He was the son of Ursula Juarez and Jose Cuatro. He was the middle child between two other siblings. Noah was taken from his parents for the first time in August 2014, shortly after leaving the hospital following his birth. This removal occurred because his mother, Ursula, was accused of being aggressive with his half-sister. This incident resulted in the girl going to the hospital with skull fractures. Baby Noah was then sent to live at his great-grandmother's house named Eva Hernandez. Unfortunately, when he was 9 months old, he was returned to his parents because the agency that received the complaint could not prove the accusations against Ursula. Folks, throughout the video, we will talk a lot about the Department of Child Employ and Family Services. So, to avoid having to repeat this gigantic name, I will replace it with the acronym DSC. Well, what the DSC didn't know was that Noah's parents wouldn't be happy with this return. That's because for them, the department had stolen those 9 months of bonding with the baby, and both Ursula and Jose felt they would be unable to reconnect with the child again. In November 2016, Kaiser Permanente, a nonprofit health plan in the United States, called the Child Abuse Hotline to report that Noah had missed 8 medical appointments in the spring and summer of 2016. An investigation was opened, and they discovered that the boy had gained only a few grams between February 2015 and October 2016. His muscles were deteriorating, and he was unable to walk, even though he was just over 2 years old. Once again, Noah was removed from his parents and temporarily placed in a facility for fragile children, and shortly thereafter, he was sent to his great-grandmother Eva. Just 2 years later, yet on November 9, 2018, Noah was returned to his parents by a court because the DSC made several objections to the fact that he was living with his great-grandmother, as if that were a problem, right folks? It's curious, this concern from the department, because while he was living with her, Noah reached the appropriate weight and height for his age. The boy would scream and wet the bed before and after his parents' visits and begged to stay with his grandma. Moreover, his parents did not comply with court orders to attend therapy with Noah, but incredibly, the Juvenile Court Commissioner, Stephen Ibsen, saw substantial progress in the parents and sent Noah home permanently. He merely stated that the parents should stop missing therapy sessions and should also visit great-grandmother Eva weekly. Additionally, he ordered that the boy be sent to preschool. However, red flags began to flash as soon as the boy settled into his parents' home. The family started receiving visits from a new social worker assigned to the case, named Susan Johnson. She was the first to detect that Noah's parents were ignoring the court orders for therapy. They were not sending the boy to preschool, and also stopped visiting Eva. Things remained strange, and in April 2019, an aunt of the boy called the tip-off service, reporting that Noah was losing weight and had thinning hair that was falling out in clumps. Not to mention that he was always scared and afraid. Another relative called the social worker Susan Johnson and said that Noah was having nightmares at night and often complained of pain in his bottom. The social worker Susan went to the family's house and found the boy with marks on his arm, neck, a large bruise on his left arm, and a lot of skin cream spread on his back. His mother claimed that he had some kind of allergy. Susan took the boy to a room where they could talk alone. When Susan asked what happened, when he did something wrong, he said he got hit, but immediately he changed his mind and said nothing happened. Susan asked again, but this time he looked away and stated that nothing happened. Susan later stated in court that the immediate retraction is a characteristic of frightened children who suffer abuse. As soon as she got back to the office, Susan was both euphoric and concerned about the boy's safety. She then rushed to talk to her supervisor and also a senior administrator, who informed her that she needed to file a petition for the boy's removal. But the DSC bureaucracies threw a bucket of cold water on Susan. Her superiors began to explain that it was not her job to assess the veracity of the boy's allegations. She was merely a child social worker, whose job was to monitor and assist families towards a safe home. In fact, the duty to investigate the allegations was assigned to an emergency response child social worker. The social worker who would take over the case from then on was named Maggie Vasquez Ducos. We were already expecting that, right? But when Maggie visited the family, the boy's mother told her that Noah got hurt by falling from a bunk bed. Ursula also burst into tears, and amidst her crocodile tears, she accused Susan Johnson and the DSC of persecuting her. At that moment, little Noah denied being abused, and the boy was sent to see a doctor recommended by the DSC, who concluded that the injuries could have been caused by a fall from a bunk bed. Maggie Ducos then consulted the social worker who worked with the family before Susan Johnson. This assistant, named Jennifer Montano, reported that she was always concerned about Noah, was completely against his return home, and felt that the parents are compulsive liars and lack character. Maggie needed to present a report on Susan Johnson's complaint. Although she had everything in her hands indicating that something was very wrong, she gave her vote of confidence to Ursula and considered the new allegation inconclusive, which means there was not enough evidence to determine that child abuse had occurred. She concluded her report on May 9, 2019. What happened is that while Maggie was finishing her inconclusive report, justifying her opinions, on the other side, Susan was writing and anchoring her thesis. Shortly thereafter, she filed her petition for Noah's removal, and on May 15th, her petition was granted by the court, along with the requirement that Noah be taken for a medical examination. On that same day, another call was made to the DSC, reporting domestic violence and abuse of Noah. As hard as it is to believe, Maggie was assigned again to investigate the new demand. In the meantime, she learned about Susan's success in obtaining a removal order and immediately began to question the necessity of this order. Maggie went to her supervisor's office and accused Susan of harassing Noah's parents. She argued that Susan Johnson was being biased against the boy's parents, and this attitude was a result of the influence of his grandmother, Eva Hernandez. Fulfilling the duty to investigate the new allegations, Maggie visited the family on May 20th, 2019. This time she requested the company of the social worker who handled the family's case for the first time, Jennifer Montano. They found Noah with a bruise on his cheek. This time 3 explanations were given. During the visit, without being asked, Noah went to Jennifer and said that his parents fed him very well, took good care of him, and that they loved him. It is evident that these statements were rehearsed. He was trained to give these answers. He just didn't know the right moment to say them, which is why he said them even before being asked. But for Maggie Vasquez, it was all fine, so much so that in a meeting on May 22nd with the senior management, she opposed the removal order, and the senior administrator sided with her, demanding that Susan not execute the order. When Susan tried to present her observations, another supervisor stopped her from speaking and demanded that she remain silent. It was agreed that the DSC would hold a meeting with the family. To make matters worse, Susan Johnson, Noah's main advocate, was removed from the case. The senior administrator of the DSC, who made the decision not to enforce the court order, also wanted someone who spoke Spanish to visit the family again, which doesn't even make sense because they all spoke English well. This person was never appointed, and the task of handling Noah's case for the rest of his life, which was quite short by the way, was left to Maggie Vasquez. On June 6th, Ursula gave birth to a boy. That's because she always denied being pregnant. She initially claimed to be a surrogate, despite not having any paperwork to prove it. A hospital social worker informed the DSC about the baby's birth. The same social worker also said that the psychiatric evaluation showed that Ursula Juarez Nacorba had traits of a sociopath. Even so, Maggie and her supervisor decided to let Ursula go home with her newborn. During the month of June, the family rebelled against Maggie, making all her attempts to visit them that month difficult. Her last visit to Noah was on June 28, 2018. According to the report, Noah was described as being in good spirits and reported feeling very well. That meeting the senior administrator said they would have with the family when they took Susan off the case, remember? Well, that meeting never happened. That's because Noah's father rejected their attempt to schedule the meeting, saying they no longer wanted involvement with the agency, which is unacceptable, right, folks? And they still basically dragged their feet and accepted, the father not wanting this meeting. They should have insisted, he would have the meeting or the boy would be taken, period. That's my opinion, right? In Noah's last week of life, Maggie formalized her accusations against the people who tried to protect Noah. She wrote emails stating that Susan Johnson was biased towards Noah's family, as well as being racist towards the family. She also wrote that Noah's parents were victims of the DSC. She wrote, "I feel that as a department, we are messing with this family." This email, was written on July 3rd. 3 days later, Noah was dead. From the beginning of her involvement, Maggie seemed to be convinced by Noah's parents that Susan Johnson was biased against them. A power struggle then began among the hierarchical forces within the department. But what no one stopped to consider was whether the boy was really safe. Meanwhile, Noah's parents abused and tortured their son freely until he had no life left. Bobby Cagle, director of the DSC, told reporters that he saw no issues with his agency's policies or with the handling of Noah's case. He refused to say whether any employee received any warning as a result. For him, firing people is not a solution to deal with deaths that happen inevitably, like Noah's. It seems that many people working in child welfare are so inadequate for their jobs that they pose a danger to children. The fact is that Noah's parents were charged with his death and arrested on September 26, 2019. Jose Maria Cuatro Jr., 28 years old, and Ursula Elaine Juarez, 26 years old, were charged with murder and torture. The prosecution also accuses the boy's father of sexual abuse against a minor under 10 years old. This is because the act allegedly happened on the same day as the boy's death. Ursula is also charged with child abuse in circumstances that could cause death. The investigations revealed that Jose consented to the assaults on the boy because he claimed to have doubts about paternity. Both declared themselves innocent of all charges. The prosecution hopes that Jose will be sentenced to life imprisonment. As for Ursula, at least 28 years in prison. The lawyer for Noah's great-grandmother, Eva Hernandez, filed a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit against the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services on behalf of the family. And this case is neither unique nor isolated. I will leave a reference to some similar cases in a pinned comment below. Now, what outrages me is that the Child Protection Service, it shouldn't have that name, because it's basically the opposite, right? Although there was one person there who was, I think, the only competent person, which was Susan, who could have saved the boy's life, but she was silenced until the very last second. They removed her from the case, prevented her from saving little Noah, and he had to go through all this abuse, all this torture, and lose his life. I hope that cases like this stop existing, that they don't happen anymore, because these things are very sad, right? Well, folks, that was today's case. I'll stop here and see you in the next video.